टूर पे जाओ, कमीशन पाओ या उपहार घर ले जाओ। ऐसे सपने दिखाने वाली स्कीम से बचकर रहें। ऐसी स्कीम्स धोखा हो सकती हैं।
IEPF अथॉरिटी, कॉर्पोरेट कार्य मंत्रालय द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
Welcome back, viewers. So we were discussing about annual reports, and thus far we have discussed what are annual reports, what are some of the key contents of an annual report, what is the origination of an annual report, and what are some of the users of annual report. On the users, we discussed current and potential investors, employees, and customers. So who are some of the other users of the financial statements? One of the key names that comes to your mind is lenders. People who have lent money to the company are really interested in knowing whether their money, which is in fact public money, is in safe hands or not, and which is where lenders are one of the key users who would use annual report not just to determine the safety of money, but also to determine whether they would like that association to continue further in terms of lending and other banking relationships with the entity. After lenders, we have the regulatory bodies. Regulatory bodies could be ROC, SEBI, income tax authorities, GST authorities, custom authorities. All the authorities are interested from a regulatory compliance perspective as to whether the company is following all the norms that are required or not. Then you have the rating agencies. Listed entities required rating for their loans, bonds, debentures, and all the other instruments that are there for public investment at large. And rating agencies use annual report as a primary information system for determining the rating of a company. These are agencies like CRISIL, Moody's, Bloomsburg, which would provide a rating to the company, which in a way is information to the investors as to whether or not the company is compliant and safe to invest in. The other users are the green bodies, people who are interested to know whether the company is providing sustainable growth or not, whether the company is taking due care of the environment impacting the company or not. And last but not the least, students. Students, both from a perspective of knowing about a company and also to know about what are the various reporting requirements would look into an annual report to delve deeper into a better understanding of financial statements and the reporting framework. So these are some of the users, and at large, you would realize that there are a lot of people who are not also associated with the company are using the financial statements. Now we come on to the next part of the presentation, wherein we'll be discussing as to what is the purpose of annual report. While we have discussed the reasons of origination, the fact that there were factors that actually led to annual reports origination and its evolution in terms of comprehensive reporting, but what are some of those listed purposes by SEBI, by regulator, by ROC, by the Ministry of Company Affairs? The first and the foremost purpose of an annual report is, by publishing an annual report, a company is able to meet its reporting regulatory requirement. As we had discussed, it is a norm, it is a requirement by the Companies Act, Section 217 of Companies Act to be precise, which requires all the companies in the country to come out with an annual report. Now, we've been discussing more particularly about the listed entities, but even the private entities which are privately held are required to submit this annual report to the ROC. And this has to be submitted before the annual general meeting that happens. So it's a regulatory requirement. And in terms of the areas that are required to be covered, both the listing body, which is SEBI, and the Ministry of Company Affairs through Companies Act prescribe the norms of what would be the minimum reporting requirements in an annual report. Second, the purpose to give out an annual report is to give out the company's financial information to public at large. It is not just the current and the future investors who are interested. We discussed that there are a lot of other users, and there is a lot of data that goes out, both financial and non-financial, which is given to public at large, whether it is balance sheet, cash flow statements, your notes to accounts, your share price growth, the non-GAAP measures. There is a lot of data that is required to be given, because annual report is a way with which the company communicates with public at large. And when I say public at large, it is their entire network, their environment wherein a company operates, their entire ecosystem is impacted when an annual report goes out. And hence, that comes to the next purpose of an annual report, wherein it is a medium with which the company communicates with public at large. It is a medium with which a company would communicate with its ecosystem, wherein it is not just the key information that is given out by SEBI or Companies Act that is given, but the company also talks about it, its vision, its forecasts, the business plans, what are its business partners, what are some of the key partnership company has entered, what are some of the key products the company is venturing into, what are some of the innovations that the company is intending to bring about, and you would have a lot of such information wherein the company uses annual report as a medium to communicate with public at large. Now, why would you want to communicate? That brings us to the next purpose of annual report, which is it is something that is used as a marketing tool by the companies. When I say it is used as a marketing tool, what is company trying to market or brand? So that these are some of the uses of financial statements when they are communicating on a scale which is a public forum. So what do they want to brand? They would want to brand their ideology, what a company stands for. Now, we discussed towards the beginning that HUL in its annual report, they speak out their annual report in the form of a story as to how their company is impacting various stakeholders. So there is a section on how the company is impacting the environment at large, how the company is impacting the employees, how they are contributing towards the social causes, how they are contributing towards the well-being of their employees. So that is the way of communicating with public that as an ideology they want to use. There is a very good case study in terms of transmission of information or communication to public at large. There was an incident that happened, if you would recall, few years back, wherein the food body in our country said that one of the most commonly used products in our household, Maggi, had lead content, which was more than what was prescribed by the food body, and that led to banning of that product, which was a flagship product for Nestle for some time. Now, while company, of course, did whatever they had to do to bring down the lead content, to do things and satisfy the food inspector in our country, but how did they transform or transmit this information to public at large? They use their annual report. Now, over the years, they have transformed their annual report from product and profitability to sustainability, to how they are ensuring safety of their products which are going to public at large. What are the kind of steps the company is taking to make sure that the product that is going out to public, and a lot of their products are actually edible products, are safe for consumption, not just for their families, but for the future generation, for smaller kids in the families. So Nestle has been using annual report to transmit that information to the larger public, that their focus is changing from profitability of the company to sustainable growth, to safety of the people who are using their products. Likewise, if you would look at the balance sheet of a company like Infosys, you would see there is a lot of focus that the company has on two aspects. One is innovation and second is global growth. So the annual report would speak a lot of investments that are going in for the future products. It could be blockchain, it could be cloud technologies, it could be anything. So the trends, so the fact that we spoke about that the newer trends, the companies that are entering into newer spaces that the companies are entering into, is something that one can know from the annual report. And some of these key enterprises, key companies in our country who are market leaders, their annual report is a great source of information for other companies also, their competition also, to see that which are some of the newer trends that are coming through. Likewise, if you would talk about a company like ITC, they are into a product which is considered hazardous. They make smoking products, for example. So their annual report would not just talk about the product profitability and environment. They would also want to talk about safety. They would also want to talk about sustainability. They would want to talk about how they are concerned about the public at large. And it is not just the profitability that alone drives the company, but their larger objective is to serve the society at large. Then this is also used as a marketing tool. There are a lot of awards that companies would be winning. There are achievements, there are partnerships that the company enters into. An annual report is used as a medium to transfer that information, to communicate that information to public at large. Because as shareholders, as investors, as potential customers, we may not know the ideology, vision, the partnership company is entering into, what are some of the key focus areas that the company intends to enter into, unless it is there in the form of information that is given out to public at large. To take an example, suppose I am a innovator who makes chips. Chips is something that was in shortfall in our country a while ago. So I would look at which are the entities which are projecting in their vision statement, in their ideology, to gain investments into the chip technology. So even as an innovator, for me, annual report is a great source of information to see which are these companies wherein I could liaison with, I could partner with, and take the product forward. these were some of the purposes wherein how an annual report is useful not just to the users but also to the company in the form of information that they are giving out to public at large. Now we would come on